Alhamdulillah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are all welcome to another episode of the Everyday Muslim Show. And in this episode of this show, we are taking a stroll through the happenings around the world. And today we are looking at Syria. In the past few hours of yesterday and even getting to the hours of today, there have been happenings around the capital of Syria being, grabbed by, they call them rebels, and then also the president of Syria, in person of Bashar Al-Assad, has also fled the country to Moscow, which is Syria. I'm sure before all of these happenings, there have been things going on in the background, about Syria. But then, being an informed Ummah, that is why we have thought of it that we need to update ourselves and let ourselves know about the things happening around the world. In adding to this, Syria is a country that has brought about so many scholars of the deen. Just so you know, the likes of Ibn Kathir, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, Imam al-Dhahabi, and a list of others were all born and brought up from the country Syria. But today there have been crises, there have been bombings, there have been, so many things happening, and one is wondering, where is the world going to? Welcome once again to the Everyday Muslim Show, and in this show, in this show, I have with me Engineer Jibril Ibrahim, the creative director at iMedia Communications and also a public affairs analyst. Before we dive deeper into the content of this video, I also want to draw attention to the fact that iMedia TV now has a membership category, and this category of our channel makes you as a member. When you become a member of our community, you have access to a whole lot content and just so much value coming to you, specifically created for you. And also we have a shop now where you can buy and get our products that we sell with a link just below the video. You see that link. You can click on it, get our products, get our merch, get a cup, and keep using our stuffs. Thank you as we dive into the video. And yes, I welcome once again Engineer Jibril Ibrahim. Thank you for joining us, Engineer Jibril Ibrahim. Assalamu alaikum once again.
Thank you very much. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
All right, so being a public affairs analyst, I'm sure you have kept yourself updated with all of the area. So can you take us all through the happenings from when you think it's been issue causing so much reactions?
It will be difficult to call Syria a new place, or the things happening in a place like Syria like an unfolding event, and what do we say about it? Syria is an age-old place because of the whole Middle East thing. When you talk about the land of Asham, it has always been part of Syria. If you talk about the Euphrates River, where Prophet Musa, if you talk about the Euphrates River, is a place of history, the Babylonian area, and then even in the time of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, if you talk about the threat they had from the Persian side, from the Sham, all these places have been historical places that has a lot of history. But in recent times, the country, after the Second World War, when Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, all these countries, maybe not Iran actually, but Iraq and Lebanon were all formed. A new history of nationalism started around that time. And from around 1971, the father of the Bashar al-Assad, his father Hafiz al-Assad. So the father died. I can't remember how, but bottom line is Bashar al-Assad came into power and continued along those lines, wherein you use terror, you use force to keep the rest of the country under the control of a minority tribe or sect or section of the country. So that was continuing until recently, 2010, 2011, the Arab Spring that started, I think, in Tunisia or I think Tunisia or Algeria. I think Tunisia. It started from there, spread across the Arab world, but a few countries survived it. Like Morocco was not impacted, but because they quickly made adjustment. But countries like Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt were heavily, impacted. But countries like Saudi Arabia, when you cross to the Arabian Peninsula, were also saved from major uprising. But a place like Syria had a massive uprising. It started as demonstration, the kind of demonstration you have in Nigeria sometimes, end bad governance, end SARS, all those kind of uprising, or let's say protests that people could have.
Yeah.
But because of the volatile nature of Syria, the government believed that they needed to use force, excessive force, to bring the people down. So that force made the matter worse, and a lot of people revolted. Now, that revolt was happening at the same time that Iraq was also in a lot of crisis that time. If you remember, it was around the same time that the ISIS in Iraq and Syria, that's Islamic States in Iraq and Syria, also sprung up. So it was easy for the ISIS that was starting in Iraq to get into the eastern part of Syria. So that was around the time, even when the actual caliphacy that what was his name? Al-Baghdadi, Abu Umar or Abu Umar al-Baghdadi or something. I can't remember the leader of the Islamic State at that time, that declared the caliphacy, the reinstatement of the caliphacy in Syria, because they captured Mosul, but their head office was in Raqqa. Raqqa is in the eastern parts of Syria. So generally, the point I'm making here is just to let us understand the context of the situation in Syria. It was a minority ruling over a majority. Of course, there are other populations also. So you had the numerous other tribes, Sunni in religious leaning, but you also had the Kurds in that eastern part that were having issues, with Turkey to their north. So generally, that was the context in which everything happened. But after the uprising, they were suppressed, and that led to the civil war that happened until I think by 2019 there was actually a time that the rebels or the uprising and the whole ISIS and so many of them, were coming together to actually topple the government of Bashar al-Assad. But Iran, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Russia were able to mobilize. Like, Russia brought in a lot of air power, a lot of firepower. Iran and Hezbollah could bring in a lot of soldiers, a lot of foot soldiers that could actually do the work. But the key thing was Russia's bombing. Russia bombed the living daylights out of all these rebels and everything. That Bashar al-Assad was like just days or weeks away from being defeated in Damascus. But with the coming in of Russia, the whole table turned. He bombed the living daylight out of these people, and that was what saved Bashar al-Assad at those times. So by the time they got bombed out, it was easy for Bashar al-Assad to now retain, like, especially Aleppo as a city. Bashar was able to retain control over that place. So that means from Damascus to Homs to Hama to Aleppo were now back under Bashar al-Assad's control. But to the west of that, you had a city like Idlib that the Sunni, the strongest Sunni rebel sets were holed up, and that rebel was holed up there, and they just left them there. So that was like the graveyard peace that was existing in Syria, a situation where you have Syria as a country on one hand, then to their north, you had Turkey to the north, and then to their east you had Iraq, and below them you had Jordan, and to their west you had Lebanon and Israel. So it's really a hot pot, and all these people that surround them, all these countries that surround them, are not I can't say none of them is really their friend. They are not really friends, because many of these people, almost all the countries that surround them, were majority Sunnis, and majority, they were just hostile to themselves, because Turkey to the north had issues with the Kurdish tribes that were just in the northern part of Syria, which is now like the southern part of Turkey. Turkey had big issues with them and is concerned that they must not get independence or get strong, because the stronger they get in that place, the more they will want to come into Turkey to, establish and carve out part of Turkey as their own Kurdish tribe. So Turkey had big issues with the Syria itself. Iraq, to the other side of it, is the areas in Iraq that were neighboring Syria were actually a lot of Sunni people that would like to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. And to the west, they had Israel, they have their own lifelong enmity with Israel, with the creation of Israel and the whole pushing out the Palestine and everything. So the Golan Heights, which is the boundary between Syria and Israel, had always been a very hot spot, So you can see that. And then to their south, you have Jordan. Okay, Jordan is relatively a peaceful country. They've been able to avoid wars in all this Middle East drama. So we must really, commend Jordan for, somehow being able to play the politics and not get into hot wars. But generally, Syria has always been a very hot place to be. A very hot place to be. You have Sunnis, you have Shiites, you have Alawites, you have Kurds. You just have everybody. A lot of global powers are interested in the situation in Syria, which is what has made the place a very explosive place. And what happened in the last 10 days could be expected. And it is what it is. The Bashar al-Assad had to leave the country for Russia, and the insurgents or the rebels or the resistance, whatever different people call them, are essentially in control of Damascus. But that has not ended anything, because the other factors, it was just that Bashar al-Assad was the common enemy. The other factors, the other players are still there. Iran is still there wondering what to do to come in from the eastern side. Turkey is still there at the north, looking at it and to decide what to do and what not to do. Russia is still on the coastal side, looking at what to do and what not to do. And Israel is also there. So, fine, Bashar al-Assad, that was the common enemy of virtually all of them, has been removed. But now they will now face themselves now and find a way to sort it out. We pray to Allah to bring peace to the place. But they have a lot of compromise and negotiations to do before we can say peace has returned to the place.
I became so much concerned at the fact that what is drawing so much countries' interest to Syria. Do you have any idea on that? Is there any particular mineral resource, or is it just the place? What?
That's a very valid question. That what is the attraction of so many? I think these lands are a crossroad. It's an important crossroad between the east and the west. When you say Europe, if you are coming from Europe by land, you would come through Turkey and you land in Syria. So they control a very important trade route. A lot of things pass through them. But critically, if you take the interest one by one, Iran is interested in the place because Iran has an avowed enemy, that is Israel. And from Iran, you can go from Iran to Iraq to Syria to get to Israel. So when Iran says they will attack Israel without being directly involved, is because of the land bridge they have between Iran, between them and Israel. So by creating a corridor of Shiite, or a corridor of attack from Iraq, from Iran into Iraq into Syria, they have a pathway into Israel. So the whole enmity. So Iran was particularly interested in Syria as a launch pad to attack, Israel. Israel is have interest in the whole show because they are neighbors, and during the 1967 and 73 wars, they were attacked. Syria joined the Arab army that attacked them. So that fight is still ongoing. Like virtually all the people that attacked, all the Arab countries that attacked Israel in the 73 war are still like enemies with Israel. So they have that issue with Israel and the backers of Israel. If you talk Turkey, Turkey is interested in the country because to the south of Turkey are the Kurds that are giving, they are like terrorists in the eyes of Turkey also. So Turkey is interested. And then by the time the Islamic states in Iraq, ISIS and their own drama also came, it also was around that from Baghdad to Fallujah to, you know, down to Mosul, and from Mosul to Raqqa. All these areas were also places that the insurgents, the Islamic State, the whole Al-Qaeda thing happened. So that makes US to be interested in that place in their fight against Al-Qaeda, the whole war on terror thing. And then coincidentally, there is also a lot of oil in that eastern part of Syria also that America was definitely also interested in, because by the time Donald Trump came in his first administration, he was like, we are getting out of Syria. But the military reminded him that, my guy, there is still oil here that we need to secure and everything. So they did not agree to let the American military, the Pentagon, did not want to leave Syria, even when someone like Donald Trump was like, he's not interested in fighting wars anymore. But they couldn't get out, and they actually still stayed in to some extent, you know. So the West is interested because of Israel. Turkey is interested because of the Kurds. Iran is interested because of Israel. And then Jordan is there praying that nobody brings trouble to his own house, kind of thing. So I think it's because they are a corridor. They are in the pathway of so many forces that are fighting themselves.
So in all you've said so far, I didn't hear you say anything about Russia. How does Russia come in to this?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Russia, you mentioned so many countries, the US, the West, you know, Iran, Turkey. But I didn't get. I was expecting you to say something about Russia, because I see Russia backing Syria so much. What interest? What are they looking for in Israel, in Syria? Yeah.
Yeah, very cogent, and that's actually very important. Now, Russia has a number of interests in the area. One is that they are friends. It's like a proxy land. It's similar to the way America wanted to defeat Russia in Ukraine. Russia also took, since America is interested in the matter because of Israel and the oil and everything, that was like another place for Russia in their whole global geopolitical issues to defeat America also. So that is one thing. Then the other thing there is the Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean Sea is a challenge for Russia because there is a lot going on there. Because you see, the problem is that Russia, with the location that it is, the only what is called a warm water port, or a warm water port essentially that it has is only in the Black Sea. You know, and from the Black Sea empties into the Mediterranean. Now, Russia does not have any naval ports that is not frozen. So anywhere it can get a space, it's like a country that doesn't have access to the ocean or to the sea. It's a challenge. Russia has a lot of access to the sea, but to its north is the Arctic, is frozen. On the other side too is frozen. So it's looking for places to place its own naval power also, to be able to participate in global power projection. So around the Mediterranean, the Western world had essentially colonized the whole thing. You have the Northern Africa, then the Southern Europe. The only space left is around this Israel, Syria, and Turkey. These are the only people that have access to the Mediterranean. So as a global power, you need a presence there. So by supporting Syria, they were able to get a naval and an air base on Syrian land, on the Syrian part that opens into the Mediterranean. So like now when they are talking and they are projecting power with America, as America is dragging and supporting Israel, they also had warships there, but their warship can say, okay, we are in our ports in Syria. So Syria is particularly important to Russia for the power projection. So that gives them a base, because it's from their base in Syria that they are able to fly aircrafts to places like Libya to support whoever they are supporting there. If they didn't have that, where would they be coming from? Would they be flying all the way from Russia to Tunisia to Libya and things like that? And then as it is now, Russia is also, of course, everybody is jostling for global power positioning. So Russia is interested in Africa. So one of the stepping stones into Africa is to have a place around the Middle East. So from the Middle East, they can fly into Libya, and from Libya they can fuel their guys in places like Burkina Faso, Mali, all these places. So it's all, I would say in a nutshell that Russia's core interest there is in global power projection, which is like in competition with the other global powers, so that their interest in Africa, in Middle East, can somehow be protected. And Syria provided a base for them to, operate from.
Wow, that's so much coming out from you and to the audience, and that's why I want to quickly mention to the audience that based on such kind of content, we want you and we encourage you all to be a part of the membership community. In that community would have so much content with so much values, with so much speakers coming your way, and also do well to patronize us by getting our products with the link in the video. You see it there and also in the description. Back to the video. So coming back to the video, the whole world is reacting. I've gone through the internet, I just see even Syrians that are not in Syria are, happy, showing the flags of freedom, saying they are free. Okay, and I know in the early part of this video, Engineer Jibril Ibrahim, public affairs analyst, had mentioned to us how this whole thing started, but specifically to know what is causing the reaction around the world. I mean, from the Syrians in different parts of the countries, in different parts of the continent, are reacting to this whole incident. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I think the Bashar al-Assad had been particularly brutal in the manner that he suppressed the uprising, the agitation, the protests during the Arab Spring that led to the civil war. It was very, very brutal, and almost 10 million people were displaced. Apart from the millions that were killed, apart from whatever number was killed, about 10 million people have been displaced from their countries, from Syria itself. Some internally, but majority of them had to leave for Europe. But the country that has taken the largest number of refugees and internally displaced people has been Turkey, because Turkey is just right there on the border, so they could just run into Turkey. But what Turkey did also was accommodate them. Turkey has been actually quite magnanimous. So that creates, if you have 10 million people displaced, scattered around the world, then you have a lot of enemies. So Bashar al-Assad was actually essentially a dictator kind of thing, because you cannot lead, you cannot use force to keep so many people under your rulership for so long without any elections and things like that. So I think the hatred he built was so much, and then with the support of Iran and the Hezbollah and Russia and the rest. That's in recent times. Russia came in like maybe 2014, 2015 kind of thing. So with the support of all that, he was able to use force to keep himself in power. So it's like you are under maybe like a dictatorship, or like everybody was in prison essentially. There are thousands of people that were just in prison. Some were just tortured to death. He had a very extensive torture chambers and torture programs that people where a lot of people were actually just disappearing, never to see light again. So, like when these rebels were able to break into Damascus, and one of the first places they go is to the prisons, because in that place they get to free a lot of people that never thought would ever see the light of day again.
Wow.
So like I saw a video of somebody that came out and was like, what happened? How can he would not believe that freedom was still possible for him? And the person recording, was just telling him that Bashar, the government has collapsed. He was so happy and he was making takbir and everything. So that tells you the depth of hatred that was there in the country, and the people that left the country, the depth of hatred that they had for the government. And the government was not going to go away. There was nothing like election, there was nothing like change of government or anything. So it was a sore spot within the Muslim world where you had such a wicked ruler that was like imposed on a lot of people. So I think it's that hatred that informs the jubilation that you are seeing, even in Damascus itself. In fact, even in his own communities, in the Alawite community, a lot of people were also jubilating, because when you just see injustice and wickedness, it's even your own people would know that this is too much, and it needed to change. So I think it is born out of what he has done, the kind of oppression, the kind of suppression that he has done, meted on the people.
Wow.
Are part of the reasons why a lot of people were jubilating to hear when they hear that his government has fallen.
All right.
And the Western world too, they are also like jubilating, because he's a conduit, is a conduit for Iranian weapons into Hezbollah, and Hezbollah was giving their stooge there the Israeli country problem. So they are happy to see him gone, but it's like I don't know if it's a lesser of two evils, but Bashar is gone, but Sunni resistance, which they sometimes call terrorists, and now, in fact, Jolani, that is the head of the group that overthrew this guy now, he's on terrorist list. He's an American EU terrorist list. He has a $10 million bounty on his head.
Wow.
So now, what do they do? Are they going to arrest him? Are they going to assassinate him? Or I don't know how they will deal with him, but he's the head of the people that are now in charge. So it's mixed feelings for some people, but it's definitely celebration for the most of the Islamic world and the Muslim world.
Wow. So much value coming out from you, and we want to quickly use this opportunity to appreciate you as our guest, and also tell the audience to keep watching our videos, because of course we bring so much content and so much values to them. Just so before we end the video, this is the Everyday Muslim Show, and of course these are happenings around the world. We are bringing happenings around the world to you, and not just happenings around the world, but those ones, if as things that concerns us, and even those that don't concern us. The point is that we all need to be informed. Tying this to the Everyday Muslim Show, Engineer Jibril Ibrahim, you've talked about injustice in leadership and how much of evil or how much of destruction it can come with. So what would be your advice to the Islamic leaders, the Muslim leaders, and in fact to the leaders in general? I'll take that from you before we end the video.
All right, Alhamdulillah, I honestly think that one, Islam is a religion that is based on justice. So anywhere you are that you think you can use injustice to hold people down, either in your government or in your home or even in an office, anywhere you are, you can't go far without justice. You can only go so far, but injustice